Hello everybody, this is Warlord. Today we're going to take a look at bringing in some non-Genesis DAZ characters. Add these to our toolbox. So first, let's take a look at how some of them actually work in iClone in the final result. Then we'll get to the instruction. Now let's take a look at converting the Steam Dragon. I've loaded the Steam Dragon, haven't done anything to it. Now it's going to take a while for the Steam Dragon to load, up to half a minute or more. Just let it handle it. This is the only time it'll take that long. Let's go ahead and convert to non-standard. And you can see our bones in here. Now if your bones aren't big enough, then come in and change it and make it big enough to see. This does not affect what you see in the final version. For a start, let's go ahead and pick the DAZ 4 Genesis profile. That maps most of our bones for us, and it maps them properly. But we do have a few changes to make. As you can see, there's an extra shin bone in here. We don't need that. So we're going to map this. We're going to remap the foot and the lower shin on each side. And we're going to leave this extra shin bone unmapped. And then we're going to pick the spine, and we're going to map it where it's already mapped green. We're going to map that right there. Now we've got to do something with the hands. And we're going to map these bones here. Now there's multiple bones there, but we don't have enough. So we're just going to map the top one. Now this gets us active, where we can do things. Now if you want to, you can adjust your T-pose here. Don't know that it's really necessary in this character because you're probably going to be locking the wings down when you give it human motion to walk. So, for those of you that have not ever used this before, when I speak about going into the T-pose, just turn off active, click on the limb, rotate, and set your T-pose. This will make the arms and things like that work better in more human type characters. Now to check this, I usually start off with 06 lower 2 calibration. That usually tells us if we've left something out real fast. Now the wings are going to fold down the front because that's what the arms would do. So we're going to go ahead and preview that. And it looks like everything's hooked up. Nothing's been left behind. And of course you could go ahead, preview head calibration. And we could take a look at upper calibration. So, we've got that set. You may want to save it. Let's convert, and then let's apply it to iClone. Okay, now the great thing about this is we use our standard motion menu to do any mapping. As you can see, there's nothing to it. But here's the thing I wanted to show you. We did not map a neck bone. So, there is no neck bone in here, just the head bone. So what we're going to do is go back out, and we're going to go back in and remap that. So, convert to non-standard. Oops, got to do it unactive. Let's take our bottom bone, and what we're going to want to click it to is probably this very last bone right here. As you can see, the neck bone. And you may want to go ahead and turn it into a position where you can see that bone better, and click it a little easier than I did. So now we've got that set. And you can go ahead and check it to make sure it still works. And we'll convert it, and we'll apply it to iClone. Now let's come in and take a look at our motion menu. And boom, there we have for the neck and the head. And you notice how that is moving both right there. So it can get a little tricky on the combination. You could always go back and unmap that too and have two versions of this. Now this is also how we would move the wings. So let's go ahead and let's look how it would work with MotionPuppet. We want to do a basic walk, so we're going to mask out our arms. And let's take a preview. You should always preview, even if you know what it's going to do, just to make sure you haven't forgotten something. Let's go ahead and add a little motion to it. We're recording now. Just give us something to work with. Okay, and we're through with that. Now we'll come in and we will edit our motion layer. Let's go back to the beginning, move down the timeline a little. And let's go ahead and use mirror. Now mirror is kind of tricky. You may have to turn it off sometimes. But for the wings, let's use mirror. And you'll find out real quick if you're rolling it on the wrong axis. That'll be a little touchy. And of course, you want to experiment with every axis here. And there's not that much to it. This same principle applies to this tall hat character, which we can use for transport. So we'll convert it to non-standard. Here's our bone structure. Let's go ahead and load Dash 4 Genesis. And I'm going to cut these down a little so we can see more of it. As you can see, that makes us active, but we're going to have a little problem here. Not everything's hooked up. This is what I mean by leaving something out. And basically it's the spine. And I'm going to click on this already mapped green bone. And now everything's in place like it should be. Now we're also going to take a look at the T-pose, because as you can see, these arms are folded underneath. So this is where the T-pose can be important. What we're going to do is adjust this pose using rotate. Wrong leg. Okay. Now you may want to take a little more time than this. But as you can see, we've moved those front legs into a T-pose. And you may even want to come on top and straighten it out. And what this does for us is make it look a whole lot better. And you can just adjust that out with the T-pose. So we're going to convert it. And we're going to apply it to iClone. And there you have it. You can move the front arms with this, you can move the legs with this, or you can come in and use MotionPuppet just like we did on the others. Now you don't necessarily have to mask it out, but you may get some funny type walks depending on how you set your T-pose. But that looks pretty good. Take a look at the look around. Looks pretty good. This is really going to be a neat tool to bring a lot of assets into iClone. Now we're going to take a look at Clank. Probably one of the most favorite characters in most people's DAZ arsenals, and it's an old character too. So we've loaded him in and we're going to convert to non-standard. And as you can see, the bones aren't that different. So we're going to use the -4 Genesis profile. And of course, you need to experiment with this stuff. You know, see what works with what. Don't just take my word for it that may be the profile you want to use. I really haven't tried any others because this did what I wanted. But you will see here there's a problem. This is why I use lower 2 calibration, because we keep leaving that center torso out in some cases. That is the spine bone, and I am mapping it to this multiple bone here. And there you have it. Nothing to it. Convert. Apply to iClone. And now you have your favorite character in there. With all the moves. Now another thing you'll notice is these models come in with high specularity. Now in order to change something converted like this, of course, you have to go to Actor and to Skin to get to it. Then you can use your eyedropper to pick up on it. And then I'm going to add a reflection map and tone it down a little bit. And I'm going to come in here and, of course, lower the specularity. I like to go to 0 on this. And there's Clank in all his splendor. A very fun character. Now let's take a look at a very cool character, the Reaper character. And this is just an awesomely built character. We're going to convert to non-standard. There you can see the bones. We're going to use the -4 Genesis map, and all we're going to have to do here is remap our shin bones so it ignores the extra shin bone. And of course we're going to have to attach our abdomen to the center area. But there will be a problem here, because we have to do our T-pose. And this is what is meant when I say the T-pose is needed for more human-type characters. We don't want those arms back there like that. So, we'll go to the T-pose, and then select the bones. Actually, I'm going to start up here on the shoulder. Move it up. And from experience, I know that this one takes quite a bit of adjustment as far as moving up. Let me get that bone. We'll move to that one. There we go. Now there's our T-pose. And let's go into lower 2 again. And there you can see we're doing a little better. You'll notice there's no armor on this particular character. That's because you bring them in as a character, you convert them, and you take them into iClone. Then you do each piece separately as a prop, then add it back. You'll have to scale the pieces up to 250% is what I found, and they'll fit where they should. And then you just attach them to the proper bone. But one particular piece of armor for this particular character is the chest that has the 2 guns mounted to it. And I have actually converted it to a character to make it easier to animate. So what we will do next is take a look at that. Okay, here's the chest area, the chest armor for that particular character. And this is very simple. We're just going to convert to non-human. I leave everything alone here. Click OK. And all we did was convert to non-human. Click OK. Apply to iClone. And now we're able to come in here and use our motion menu to actually move the guns. Now there may be a better way of doing this. This is just the way I found out, so I haven't tried anything else. But as you can see, you can grab each gun individually when you drill down to it and use your axis to move them, including the pivot. Of course, the base. You could do this on both. And then, of course, you move down a little. Now, you're going to get this pop up. A debug window, just ignore it. It does it in this character. Now all you do is attach this to your character. Excuse me, you don't attach it, you link it, since it itself is going to be a character. You will load your other character, load this, it should fit if you haven't moved anything, then link it to that character. You can also make yourself a static version of this to just use as a prop, which will then turn into an accessory once you attach it. But this way you can add fairly simple motion. You can probably go in and collect that motion and save it. I haven't tried that.